Good morning, everyone. Archbishop Richard Gagnon here. This is our Friday morning report. Welcome back to the Friday morning reports. We had a 2-week break, and it's good to be back and share with you a few things here and there, some odds and ends in the Archdiocese of Winnipeg. So today is October the 14th. Now, I just got back on Wednesday night late from Brandon. I was at a special event that used to happen every year, and that is the Serra Club Banquet in Brandon, put on by the Serra Club, Serra, S-E-R-R-A, if you're not familiar with this. It is a group of lay people who promote vocations. So it was a lovely banquet. There was a speaker, Father Darren Gurr, spoke on the spirituality of stewardship, and it's aimed primarily, this banquet, for the two deaneries, Westman and the Parkland deaneries. And so we had a good group of lay people there at the banquet. There were many clergy there, religious and permanent deacons. The Serra Club itself, Serra International, is designed to promote vocations and to support vocations. And it's a service club. It was started in 1935 in Seattle. There were 4 men with their wives who met in one of the homes one night and decided that they would do some special service in the church to promote and support vocations. And that's when it was born, in the living room of one of the members. And then it developed from there. And then within a decade, it became international, with the next Serra Circle or Serra Club opening up in Victoria, British Columbia in 1943, I think it was. And from there, it spread all over the world. So I'm just mentioning that to you because often we think, what can I do in the church? What can I do for the church? What can I do to promote the important ministries of priesthood, permanent diaconate, and religious life in the church? And the Serra Club is a good way to do it. And there are some very dedicated people in Brandon and another Serra Club in Winnipeg who are having an event next week, I believe, to raise funds for vocations. And these dedicated people, they've been doing this for many years, and we start thinking about, succession. We start thinking about new members, and I really would like to see some interest start in the Archdiocese to promote membership in the Serra Club. I would certainly invite people to think about that. If you're looking for ways to be involved in the church, think about joining the Serra Club. Be part of the team. It's not a huge commitment, but it does an awful lot of good in the church, promoting, praying for vocations in the church. And so just wanted to share that with you. It's very positive news, and something now and again to bring forth and to remind people of. So very good. So on a less positive note, just a little item came my way the other day. I think it'd be good to share with you. Do you remember the time before internet, any of you that are listening to this Friday morning report, when the newspapers were the source of information primarily about what's happening in the world? Now, I have a friend who passed away recently, but he was a priest from Belfast. And he used to tell me what they used to do in his home, and this was not unique to his home. Many homes were like this. After Sunday morning Mass, the family would come together, the relatives would come over and whatnot, and the family would sit around the living room and they'd be reading the newspapers for an hour or so. And the newspapers, of course, different newspapers, different political points of view, different ownership, lots of newspapers in those days, especially in the bigger cities. And they'd talk about what they were reading and share with one another what they were reading, controversial points of view, contrary points of view, etc., etc. I thought that was a very healthy thing to do. Unfortunately, today we rely on social media and on cable TV for our source of information today. And as far as social media is concerned, we don't often go far afield. We rely very much on certain things, on Twitter, for example, or YouTube. And it came to my attention the other day that YouTube has embarked upon an interesting policy change It's sort of connected to, I guess, what people call nowadays cancel culture. If you don't agree with a particular statue or you don't agree with what somebody is saying, it's in the area of free speech, then you cancel that out. You cancel it. You don't want to hear that. It's very different than my example of reading newspapers where contrary points of view were listened to with respect and discussed. So there really is no inclusiveness when it comes to ideas. And it's kind of like a mission creep. Mission creep means that the original mission of an organization begins to broaden and broaden and broaden and broaden. In a certain way, it's kind of like a cancellation creep because it's reaching into all aspects of society. And so in the social media area, like YouTube or Twitter and other platforms, we're finding more and more of that. So a policy in YouTube, from the YouTube people, the company, seems to be focused on the question of abortion. And speakers who are speaking about abortion or the sanctity of life, pro-life organizations who are on YouTube, maybe this Friday report, who knows, are now, when YouTube comes on the screen, and I'm not a technical person, but when YouTube programs come on the screen, a disclaimer pops up. And the disclaimer refers you to abortion websites or comments about abortion. And it's an interference on the right of free speech. Even though these companies are private companies, still it is troublesome since they seem to have, if not a monopoly on social information, pretty close to a monopoly. And I'll leave that for the lawyers to figure out. But this is a troublesome matter. So YouTube would say, they claim that abortion is a topic prone to misinformation. It's a very interesting statement in itself when you think about what is said about abortion today, with no focus at all on the unborn child in the discourse about abortion in general. It means that many YouTube videos, and I'll just read this, many YouTube videos about Pope Francis, for example, when there's a YouTube about some of his speeches, some of his talks, or Catholic teaching on abortion, pro-life groups, or YouTubes about alternatives to abortion, now must include, or will include, forcibly include, links to abortion information. That's a new development. I think we should be aware of that. The Second Vatican Council spoke about being aware of the signs of the times. Well, that's one of the signs of our times, is that kind of cancellation creep that's happening. And we cannot remain complacent about that, and we must be informed about that, because that affects directly ourselves as Catholics. Just to single out the Catholic Church, for example, with regards to this question. And the teachings of the Church are now, if they're on video, they could very well have a disclaimer. Or when I give a short little review of some aspect of pro-life on the Friday report, you'll see a little disclaimer box at the bottom of the YouTube video that you're watching right now, linking you to an abortion site, to a website. So anyways, that is less good news than the Serra Club that I spoke to you about. Back to good news. I just returned from the plenary in Cornwall with the bishops, and once again, we're noticing more and more how we as church are very much appreciating the ability to come back together in person for our meetings. That's the first plenary we've had in over 2 years, and the bishops really appreciated the fact that it was an opportunity to connect, the fraternity and so on, to once again experience that solidarity. And so we put on the website a press release. There are 7 bullet points there about some of the things that were discussed at the plenary, most specifically about walking together with Indigenous people, because that's a very important subject nowadays. And there's a lot going on in Canada with regards to reconciliation initiatives, and there's 7 points there you might pay attention to. The first one, I won't go through all 7, just the first one is a reference to the cross-country fundraising of $30 million from all of the dioceses to assist programs of healing and reconciliation, and we're playing our part in that. And I mentioned the other day when I was interviewed by the Winnipeg Free Press that we have reached over half of our goal. Our goal is $660,000 as part of that $30 million. And already last summer, as I think I mentioned on a previous Friday report, we were able to give a substantial donation to the Assiniboia Residential School Legacy Group Memorialization Project to memorialize the Assiniboia Residential School that was on Academy Road in Winnipeg. And we're happy to be part of that, be partners with others in that project. And we're now reviewing another project. So I'm thankful to the help of the elders of our elders group who assist in discerning these applications for healing and reconciliation programs. I would encourage you to go to our website, have a look at that press release. It'll talk about the doctrine of discovery, it talks about the files, it talks about education in Indigenous matters and so on. So it's good to be informed. Another positive aspect in the diocese, a positive event just last Sunday on the 9th of October was the blessing of the new Indigenous Parish Church, St. Kateri Tekakwitha Parish. There was an old church building, but we acquired a new building, a beautiful church actually, and we bought it off of the Mennonites who were there, and they offered it to us at a very good price. And they still attend Kateri Church with their own service in another part of the facility. And we're very grateful to the Mennonite community for their assistance. Now, at the blessing on Sunday, it was a wonderful event, well attended. The builders of that church was the Lutheran community. And there were members there on Sunday, as well as the Mennonite community, and many religious were there as well. And it was a very fine celebration. And Kateri Parish, which is not a huge parish, but they put on a very large banquet afterwards in their hall for all those who attended. So that was a beautiful event, and it's always nice to bless a new facility of the Archdiocese, especially for the Indigenous Catholics that are here, who are attending Mass on Sundays and other events that are going on there. On Sunday, I have the privilege of attending the 100th anniversary of the Ukrainian Catholic Parish of the Protection of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Winnipeg. It's a very historic church. And I think we really have to show our solidarity with our Ukrainian brothers and sisters at this very difficult time. If you go to the website for that parish, the Ukrainian Catholic Parish of the Protection of the Blessed Virgin Mary, you'll find some information there on the war in Ukraine and what local Catholics in Ukraine are doing to help their brothers and sisters at this difficult time. So I would refer that to you. Pray for peace in Ukraine is what we have been doing and we must do. Another final piece of good news is that the website has a video produced by the Pastoral Services of the Catholic Center about the World Meeting of Families last June. There were 4 people who attended from the Archdiocese, and you might find it interesting because a number of people from different countries are being interviewed by John Acosta, who coordinates our pastoral services here at the Catholic Center, and you get a flavor of what that meeting of the World Meeting of Family was like in Rome last June. A very important international event. I had the privilege myself of going to several of them over the years, and it really allows us to have further information about promoting families and the programs that are available, not only in our own country, but internationally. And that's what we want to do, is promote marriage and family life in the Archdiocese of Winnipeg. Well, thank you very much for watching this Friday morning report. We're back on track on our weekly reports. May the Lord be with you and protect you and your families, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.